The following is intended for mature audiences only. Viewer and listener discretion is advised.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to the Smoke Free Radio Network.
That was interesting.
Good evening, everybody. Mike Peterson coming back with another edition late in the evening this time, moving to our new time slot, 9 p.m. Glad to see that everybody's in and joining. Thanks, Bill. Bill Tarling in the chat room. Yep, today is that day I turn another day or another year older. You get to my age now, and it's just like one day melds into the next, which goes into the next week, and pretty soon you feel like you're on Quaaludes or something, and 3 months go by, and you wake up and you go, damn, did I remember to get that at the grocery store? Of course, my wife keeps me in check, so I'm really good about that.
You didn't tell me it was your birthday.
Ladies and gentlemen, if you would, please welcome tonight's guest, Mr. Matt Culley. Yes.
Thanks for having me, man.
Oh, man, I am so glad that you joined this evening. I truly am. I've been wanting to talk with you for a long, long time. And
well, that's a lot of pressure, especially now that I know it's your birthday too, and you're for some reason spending an hour with me.
Ah, dude, it's one of those things that I enjoy because I've taken the entire day off. I haven't done much of anything except the things that I wanted to do. You know, I spent some time with the in-laws, caught up with all my kids, and it's been awesome. It's been an awesome kind of day. Oh, of which tomorrow. For anybody that's listening, if you are interested in techno, tomorrow, during the day, Shits and Grins, I'm going to do a live stream. A friend of mine that is a DJ did a set in 1999, and he has agreed to let me live stream it tomorrow for a 20-year anniversary. So check back later for that. But tonight we have Matt Culley of Suck My Mod, ramifications, and all that he has going on. Matt, I looked at your YouTube channel. You've got 271,000 plus people that here comes OBS, and it ditched out and gave me the finger, and I have no idea why it is causing such a problem.
Uh-oh.
That's all right. It'll either stitch itself back together. It's not like I'm running that much tonight. But yeah, How does that feel when you go out anywhere and you've got the Suck My Mod and everything that you do, and you've got a face that is recognizable almost everywhere that you go? How do you deal with the public? And was it difficult for you to get adjusted to that?
I don't get recognized very often in where I live because I live in Montana. So it's not like, like in this whole county I live in, there's like 100,000 people total. So like it happens once in a while, but it's not super often. Now, obviously when I go to like certain cities, especially like I find that like in California, I get recognized a lot, but obviously when I go to a vape show, it's like you kind of get a taste of what, notoriety or whatever you want to call it is like. And yeah, it was definitely something that took getting used to. It's pretty humbling. But it's kind of nice. Like, you get to experience that. But then when I come home, I'm just like a nobody again. So just a guy that's making videos in his basement.
If you see me craning my neck around, I'm looking at the mixer, and then I've got a laptop. Tonight, the phone lines are open, folks. If you want to call in and you've got questions for Matt, 215-383-5752, or the phone line numbers. You can call in. Once you get connected, remember, please press 1 That way it pops up on my little screen on the laptop that's over there. And then we'll get to you and you can ask your questions of Matt if you've got some. You started doing reviews like 5 years ago, or even longer, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, it was February 2014, so a little over 5 years.
Wow. Now, I'm curious, how much money have you put into equipment from the start until now? Because I know you're working with like a Bluebird, if I'm not mistaken, or something, of the microphone that you have.
That's what I use for live stuff, but that's not what I use for my videos. Or wait, you mean you mean the microphone, or what do you mean?
In your gathering equipment, from the day you started doing reviews to now, have you invested like more than what you thought in equipment to do your show?
Yeah, a lot of that's my fault though, because I definitely love cameras and stuff like that. Like there's a few cameras I need to sell right now.
Oh boy.
I don't use anymore. But I've probably, it's not, the thing is with YouTube, you don't have to put that much money into it. But like I would say, if I added up cameras I use and microphones, audio recorder, obviously I needed to get a better computer for editing and stuff. Like I would say I've probably spent 30-40 grand.
Oh my God. That makes me look like nothing compared to you.
But
Holy
but
mackerel.
the thing is, like I didn't need to, because the stuff I use right now, I use a GH5, so that's like a $2,000. It's like a $2,000 camera. The lens I use is the 12-60, which is like $1,000. So there's $3,000. Then I use a Mix Pre 3 recorder, $3,600. The microphone I use is like $600, $4,200. And then obviously like my lighting is probably $1,500. So I mean, I would say like what I actually use, if I don't include my computer setup and stuff, like it's probably like $7,000-8,000 worth of equipment.
Holy mackerel.
But I've bought and sold a lot of cameras as well over
I can imagine. And the reason that I ask that is because the quality of the videos that you do during reviews is amazing.
Thank you.
I mean, just amazing. And I wanted people to hear the fact, if you've got anybody that's out there that's watching and listening or otherwise going, oh my God, yes, I can do vape reviews. No, folks, not like that. You can't. Doing reviews like that on a shoestring budget, not going to happen.
Well, I mean, it's definitely like a process. Like when I started with a Logitech C920 webcam, the the MacBook Air that I got from the job previously, that was given to me because I was in advertising sales and stuff. I had a blue microphone, so I mean I started the channel on like $300,
mm-hmm.
and then you just kind of add to it over time, and then you find like what works and what doesn't work. A lot of people put a lot of emphasis on the camera, but then they don't realize that you could buy a $500 camera and it can look sweet if you have good lighting.
Yep.
And obviously you know how to use the camera, like dialing in your exposure, your white balance, all that stuff. So it all is like a learning process too. Like you're building up equipment, but you're also trying to learn how to use it. And there's still a lot of things I want to learn how to do, and I'm kind of, I put it off, and I'm lazy. But it's like it's an forever evolving thing.
I can only imagine, because I started off with a little dinky mixer and a little camera, and I've expanded. Nowhere near. Facebook is not liking us tonight. That's the second time Facebook has dropped and given us the finger. It may just be on my end, but
it looks like you're still on your. I'm looking at it on your page. I'm not listening to it, obviously, but it looks like you're still on.
It might just be me freezing up because I've got so much. This is the stupid part on my end. I've got a quad-core processor that's not a slouch, and 32 gig of RAM, and a decent video card and audio card, and it still creates a problem. Anyhow, for me, what kind of software do you use, if I can ask? Do you use OBS? Do you record and then edit as you go along?
Yeah, I record and edit. I use Final Cut Pro on a iMac.
And I've heard that that's some outstanding software too.
Yeah, it's real. Like a lot of people shit on Apple, but when it comes to video editing and stuff, like when you can use their software and their hardware together, it's very seamless. Like the export times are way faster than like Premiere Pro. Like a lot of Mac users will still use Premiere Pro because they like it better. It gives them a few more features and stuff. But for what like with vape videos, it's like you kind of have to balance the time aspect of it, and because it's kind of like quantity as well, right?
Yep.
So I don't have 5 days to work on the same video. So as far as speed and output, like I really like Final Cut.
I've heard, and again, I've heard a lot of people that would talk about Final Cut because I believe that's what a lot of actual movie production people use. Is an ungodly Mac
more
Pro.
Moving into it now. Like they used to use Final Cut 7, I think it was like a decade ago. Then when Final Cut X came out, or 10, they hated it, and now it's gotten better again. So,
Bill Charling in the chat. I don't know. Do you know Bill from up in Vancouver?
Yeah, I know Bill.
Turns around and he goes, "Has Matt ever attended or participated in the Phil and Dimitri Celebrity Hot Tub streams?"
I have not. I've never been invited to those. Apparently, they're not interested in me in that way.
Wait till I tell Dimitri. The next thing you know, you're going to get a phone call going, "You got to be here at this date and time."
I think Dimmy likes men with more hair.
Oh my God! Tell me if you can. In all of the hardware reviews you have done, what was one of your favorite? And I'm not saying favorite hardware, but what was one of the videos that you enjoyed the most, either because the production came out just right, or the lighting was just right, or it just all folded together like perfectly?
Oh, that's a tough one. Because I have like 800 and some videos, and like a lot of the ones that really stick out to me the most are the ones like from the early times, because it was like very new and exciting at the time. Like I remember the first time getting a K-Fun and reviewing it, and that was like like just totally game changing for me. Like I still to this day love K-Funs.
Wow.
And so, I remember things like that, like because obviously there's been so many products over the last 5 years.
Yeah.
They all kind of run into each other, like I'll remember, like, for example, okay, like I just reviewed an RGA recently, and it had a little turbine in it. And that was a gimmick that they did 4 years ago in the Turbo RGA that was stupid then. And so I remember that video, and and then I started remembering all the blowback I got after that video and stuff. So it's kind of like, maybe it's me getting old, but also just the amount of content I put out. Like sometimes I forget about certain things until something triggers it, and then I remember, and get nostalgic.
Did you
definitely one of the recent videos that I've done, and it wasn't because of production value or anything, but something that I felt was like really cool, was I had Grim Green on my live show, and we kind of talked about the history of vaping since he's been in it. And it's just, I love history and stuff's just, that kind of stuff interests me, especially like when you gauge like where we were at then to where we are now. So like, anybody that hasn't seen that yet, it's definitely worth your time. It's super interesting because he's been in it for twice as long as I have.
I watched that show, and I learned so much. It wasn't even funny. Just listening to the two of you kicking back memories, of things that you were doing then versus now versus what was out then versus hardware. And, so.
And I always got, like, I was depressed after that show. Not you start like talking about the good old days and the nostalgia, and you remember this and you remember that, and it's like, yeah, I remember back when we weren't constantly stressing about, if this industry was going to be here 6 months from now. And it was, but obviously if another 5 years passes, I'll be looking back at these times fondly. So it's just kind of how life is.
Bill Charling, thank God that Bill's around for me, because Bill has helped me evolve in what I'm doing, because I started out trying to run Wirecast, which that program will kill a PC in a heartbeat.
Oh
You
yeah,
know,
I've heard that.
Dimitri runs it, but he's got a beast, of a PC, and he has fiber directly to his house. So it's like, fuck, I'm not going to be able to touch that. So Bill helped me migrate over to OBS, and then he's helped me build scenes, sets, lighting, all kinds of stuff. But if it
That's
weren't for him, but it was funny because he turned around, he goes, "Do you want a good laugh?" I'm like, "Sure." He goes, "Go back and watch your first show." I'm like, "Oh hell no."
yeah, yeah.
We're not doing that.
I cringe anytime I even think about doing that. I mean, I have just like for joke purposes or to like go pull a clip or something, and
Yep.
it was rough.
It's horrible is what it is, because I go back and I look at it and I'm like, "Oh my god." That's like horrible. Terrible, horrible.
Yeah, it's very like it take even like I don't feel like I'm the smoothest person on camera or live or anything. I still have a lot of ums and losing my thought and stuff, but like it takes a while to just get natural in front of a camera to where, you're not seeming like you're being fake or anything
Yep.
compared to how you are in real life. And I look at some of those videos from back then and I just feel like I was cheesy.
I did the same thing. And I don't know if I just messed up Facebook. I did the same thing because it, to me, was not natural to sit and talk with people. But as I've gone along, I've found, and thank God for Dimitri, he's given me a platform to work on. I found that I love it. Just flat out love it.
It's enjoyable. I mean, especially I enjoy reviewing, but I also enjoy doing live stuff as well. There's always good conversations to be had.
In doing what you do, did you ever create a video that you really thought was horrible and you put it out anyhow and it turned out to be that people really enjoyed it? Or did you just redo all your video altogether?
I'm pretty critical of myself, so I've done that multiple times. Where I mean, it depends on what you mean by horrible. Like I've done videos before where I just totally flubbed it and gotten stuff wrong, like to the point of where, okay, I can't put an annotation here and just correct myself. Like I have to ditch this and start all over because I totally missed something. I either missed like the main feature of the device or something super important. But I mean, the weird thing with YouTube is like a lot of times you never know what videos are going to be super popular or what videos are going to take off. Sometimes you have an idea, but you never really know for sure. And so like some of the most popular videos I've made were ones that I would have never guessed were gonna do well.
That to me is ironic in and of itself, and especially when you say that you are critical of your own work and what you are doing. And it's like you cringe and you're like, okay, I'll put it out there and see what happens. And then it goes like gangbusters. There are so many things that people, I don't know if they realize, when you do a review from start to finish, I mean, from the time that you turn the lights on, you get everything ready, you do the review, how long does it take you until you upload it to YouTube?
It varies. I'm a lot faster now than I was a few years ago. Like I've really dialed in like my system and the editing and the presets I have for the color grade and all kinds of stuff. So it's like way more like production, like I have steps perfectly down now. But like I would say now it probably takes me couple hours to film, hour and a half to 2 hours, depending on what it is. Obviously, like a pod system, you can do that really fast. A rebuildable or a mod with a really deep menu or something could take a lot longer.
Mm-hmm.
And then the editing probably takes another, on average, 3 or 4 hours, maybe
Holy
sometimes
mackerel.
less, sometimes more. I mean, so I would say like each video, if you averaged it out, I would say like 4 to 6 hours.
Wow.
But I mean, it used to take a full day to get a video done. And like there's outliers like with pod systems and stuff that's very simple, or like a sub-ohm tank where you're not rebuilding anything and it's very just straightforward, then you could a lot of times do it way faster.
Because with me and what I do, everything that I'm doing is live. I don't do any kind of recording. It's just whatever happens and comes out is what people are going to get. And I try to frame things, make it look decent, but there's no fixing mistakes on this end.
Yeah, that's kind of the beauty of live, though.
Well,
I
until
like having my live show now because it's like one extra piece of content, and I don't have to edit it.
there are times that it's a wonderful thing because you can catch some really odd moments that are really nice. And then there are times like Brent Stafford did a live show the other night, and the entire time he was muted. Nobody heard anything.
Yikes.
You could
Yeah,
see
I
his
always
face, and I'm like,
watch
oh.
that for that kind of stuff. 'Cause
I felt
that's,
so bad for the guy.
yeah, that sucks.
When you go to large conventions, expos, and you get together with Grim Green or Ruby Roo or other personalities, if I can put it that way, other reviewers, do you guys all sit and talk shop? Or do you find yourselves saying, hey, it's been forever since I've caught up, how's life going, what's going on, what football team are you watching?
A little bit of both, and it depends on the reviewer. Some reviewers I have more outside stuff in common with, and some I don't. Like I get along with most of them, but like I would say it's a little bit of both. Like like talk shop, but I'll like talk about if there's any projects they're working on, or hey, what did you think about if there's something interesting going on in the industry. Hey, what'd you think about that, or what'd you think about this device that was super innovative or whatever. But yeah, I mean, if it's like an extended period of time and maybe we're going out to dinner and drinks and stuff, like we're not talking vaping the whole time.
I was curious, because it's like you're working or you're around a group of peers. It's the vape community gets together, and inadvertently, most of the time, we're talking about vape whatever.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'll tell you one thing that we do a lot, and that is complain. Because
really,
well, okay, let me explain this. When it comes to YouTubers, most people think that it's a cakewalk situation, and it's an easy job, or it shouldn't even be a job, or whatever. Not, I'm not saying you, but I'm just saying there's good portion of people that feel that way. And so it doesn't, it's stupid for me to sit there and bitch about something that's going on in my life or career to some random person that's not going to understand it. But like when you talk to another YouTuber, whether it be a vaping YouTuber or another kind of YouTuber, they totally get it. Like, hey, did you notice that YouTube started throttling views more last month? Have you checked out where your where your traffic's coming from? Because YouTube's constantly jacking with their algorithm. They're demonetizing stuff. They're, like last year, everybody was worried about them possibly banning vape content because they banned some of the cannabis content, and then they brought it back. Like, so they're constantly like inconsistent, and so there's stuff there. And then like, oh, check out what this troll just said to me, or this person doing this or doing that. And so it's not like, oh, woe is us, like we think we have this horrible existence. Like we all feel pretty lucky to be in the position we're in. But those YouTubers are usually the only ones that really understand where you're coming from, because it's a pretty niche thing, right? Like there's not a ton of people that are making a living in this world on YouTube. And so when you can get around a few others, you can sit there and kind of bitch and complain and bounce ideas off of each other and stuff like that.
And talk shop to what is commonplace for all of you that work on YouTube. You're talking shop. Like shop owners would get together and talk about whatever's going on in their shop.
Yeah,
you guys talk about YouTube.
I guess you could say it's. I guess when you said as talk shop, I thought you meant like, are you talking just vaping? And so like I would say we're talking shop, like just as the whole process of being a YouTuber and certain things we're dealing with. Or hey, did you experience this? I mean, there's a there's also like, a pretty big chat group of all YouTubers, vape YouTubers and stuff. So when there is some like drama going on or something like that, or like, hey, did you guys get a copyright strike, or did you guys get a community strike on this or whatever, then there's like a quick and easy way to communicate with a lot of other people to see if they experience the same thing.
Wow. Did it take you a while? And I know that that's an odd question. Did you find yourself getting up to speed to where you wanted to be in a short period of time? Did it happen quicker than you thought that it might have? Because nobody gets on YouTube and becomes an overnight sensation, or very, very few.
Honestly, I didn't have like diehard expectations when I started. It was kind of like on a whim in the beginning. Like Vanessa and I had joked about it a few times, but like then like one day we were just like, okay, let's go buy a microphone and a webcam. It wasn't super well thought out or planned out. Now once and there's definitely no doubt that she helped me with this because she's pretty woman on YouTube. But once we started getting that first 2,000 subscribers, it's like, whoa, this might actually go somewhere, and it's definitely very motivating. I mean, as far as where I want to be, I'm still to this day not necessarily where I want to be. I don't just base that off of numbers, but like, I think if you're like comfortable, then you get complacent and you get lazy and stuff like that. So like, especially in the world of YouTube, like if you not just in vaping, but in the whole space, there's a lot of YouTubers that have come and gone, like that were freaking super popular, especially outside of the vape industry. But there's some that were super popular 3 or 4 years ago, and then they just kind of didn't keep up with the times, or they didn't realize that things were changing. Like, for example, when YouTube changed their whole algorithm, that changed a lot of things. Like, so they started favoring more frequent content, and certain channels that didn't start putting out more got left behind to some extent. It might not have completely killed their channel, but like, a lot of channels that were putting out 1 or 2 videos a month, like they just started getting hidden,
Wow.
And so it's kind of, you're never really comfortable, if that makes sense. I mean, for multiple reasons. Obviously, it doesn't necessarily feel good knowing that, like, you rely on a platform that really doesn't give a shit about you. You know what I'm saying? So they could obviously do whatever the hell they want. They could change algorithms. They could ban whatever they want. So that's never a comfortable feeling. So it's definitely caused me a lot of stress over the years.
Did you ever think about jumping off of YouTube and going to another service?
Yeah, but it's just not viable right now. I mean, I obviously on Instagram and Facebook and stuff like that, but like there's no video serving site, like whether it be, and a lot of people are saying, well, what about a vape only? And I know there are a few like VapeTube and stuff like that. Mm-hmm. You have to dig into people's psyche. How many people are going to remember to go check, except for the diehard vapors? How many people are going to remember to go check that one extra site? Like, we live in this world of convenience, and part of why YouTube's done so well, and like, I even look at your own viewing habits. I jump on YouTube and I might watch a vape video, and then I might watch a video on politics, and then I might watch a video on a new knife I want to buy, and then, oh, look, there's a new iPhone coming out. And so it's like, it covers all this different stuff. Most people aren't just watching videos on vaping. And so that's why YouTube's very hard to beat right now. I mean, it doesn't mean that there won't be another service that will overtake them in the future, but it's probably going to be the same type of, like I could foresee a blockchain type of YouTube, service. They're already building some, but none of them are super great yet. I could see something like that getting big over the next decade, but right now, I mean, there's just no other way to get as many eyeballs anywhere else except when it comes to video, except for on YouTube.
That would agree. And I find it ironic because I keep hearing that people, like you said, they'll be watching they've got like 4 or 5 browser tabs opening, and they'll watch bits and pieces of this, or change over to this, or change to that. You know,
Yeah.
it's almost
Well,
like
I mean,
they're
just
time
yeah, look
sharing.
at your own habits too, like mine too. Like, remember 10 years ago, we were so used to going to a different site for different every single little thing, or
Yep.
like, but then Amazon changed that too when it came to purchasing. So instead of going to Best Buy for this electronic and then going to, you know, whatever, Walmart for, or Home Depot to buy a tool you want to order, like everything's on Amazon now. So like we're all getting more and more into convenience. And so it just makes sense to have all video content congregated into one place.
I would agree, because you find it, you start watching it, you get addicted to it, like reviews or gaming reviews or anything. Bill Charling asked out of the chat room, did Matt ever get caught up in the I've got to be first to review a new device, or did you take the smarter let's try it for a while before reviewing standpoint?
I wouldn't say either one of those is smart, Bill. Like I was saying,
No, he's asking, did you get
oh no,
caught up?
I know what he's saying, because that was a big argument a couple years ago. But like, we all had to speed up our process and I'll lay out why. Like, I definitely wasn't as diehard into, oh, I got to be first. Like, I'm still not that way. I'm usually not first on a product. But if we got to a point back around 2015, and where you spent a month or two on a product, your views were nothing. Like, it's pointless to make a video if people aren't going to watch it. Like,
Yep.
so that you have to follow, you can't just follow what you want and what maybe some of the viewership wants. You have to look at what the majority wants, and the majority wants to see the device as soon as possible. So I try to balance out giving something enough testing time, not doing some straight out of the box review with, you know, but I can't spend 2 months on it because no one's going to watch it at that point anyway.
No.
And so a lot of that was also the algorithms. Like, the YouTube algorithm would, like, when for search, would really start favoring people that were first as well. And so again, that was one of those evolving things, and especially with more and more products coming out, and there was something new coming out every day. Like, you had to speed up your process, or again, you got left behind. And like, there were people during that whole kind of transition that did get left behind, and a lot of them quit YouTube. So it was kind of like, I totally have always gotten both of those arguments where, you know, like, yeah, people should spend a month or two on a device, but why am I going to waste my time doing that when by the time I'm ready to make the video, the version 2's out, or no one cares about that mod anymore, you know?
Did you ever catch a lot of shit for giving an honest review about a product that people may have thought was awesome and it turned out not to be?
Yeah, that happens all the time. There's always contrarians, no matter what. Like, I could take the Beep and say it's amazing, right? Which I do like it. It is amazing. And there's going to be people that are going to say, you're a shill, you're full of crap, so on and so forth. But then obviously, if I take the Beep and I criticize it too harshly for some people, I'm going to get shit for that. The weird thing is that you would think that you get more crap for giving something a glowing review, because they would, you know, like, hey, this new top side is just amazing, blah, blah, blah. You'd think you'd get more shit for that, but you actually get more shit when you are harsh on a product and you don't like it. And
Wow.
like, I think it's because there's a lot of people that have already bought it and they're like really devoted to it. And so they take it personally when you don't like something that they really like.
And either that, or because it's trendy and they bought it because it was brand new. And even if they think that it's a pile of garbage.
Yeah. Well, that's what's always got me too about the whole, like, and sorry if I sound like I'm getting too ranty. And
No,
Bill,
fine.
I wasn't trying to get too ranty with you, but this is actually a good conversation. People don't ask me these questions very often. Like, when people, you know, a lot of times they'll be like, well, you got that product for free, so of course you like it, so on and so forth. Honestly, when you've been doing this for as long as I have, like, you don't, you know, that free product is not worth all the time it's going to take for your video or anything like that. So it's not like I don't get vape mail anymore, and I'm just like, oh my God, unless it's something super special, like something I really wanted, you know, So that, but the people that spend their hard-earned money on something and they really wanted it, like they're kind of they have the rose-colored glasses on more sometimes, in my opinion, than someone that maybe got it for free and it has no monetary value for them. But if you go out and spend, whatever it is, $150 on this mod here, like you tend to fall in love with it because that represents $150 for you.
Yeah.
For me, I get it, and some people might not agree with this, and that's fine. But for me, I get it for free, and it doesn't really have any monetary value to me. And in some ways, I feel like I'm able to be more critical then, but because I am somebody that has a lot of different hobbies, and so I buy a lot of other collectible things like knives, cameras, stuff like that. And I do find sometimes that I'm not as subjective with like a new camera I buy as that reviewer that I'm watching.
That's interesting because and again, whether you're invested monetarily in it or you've been waiting for somebody, just like Tony B came out with a squonk. There was a lot of talk about it and a lot of things, so I bought one simply because I was very interested to see how it was going to work. And I still use it, but it's not my everyday driver. It's just, yeah. I find it interesting about that. Folks, we're going to...
Sorry to cut in, but I think it depends on where you're at, too. Like, if someone's a brand new reviewer and they just got their first device for free for review, that, they might, not saying they're all like this, but I could see people being maybe a little softer on it. Like it's their first device they've gotten for free. This is super cool. This is amazing. Like, oh my God. And I could see them maybe being a little softer, but like once you've been doing this for long enough, like it doesn't have that kind of.
Did you ever feel obligated to give a decent review because of a company size or because of a name brand?
No, what I have done before is I've gotten products from a company and I've said, hey, this thing's horrible. Like if it's something that, like, it depends on what it is. Like if it's just not my cup of tea, that's one thing. But if it's something that is like a complete defect, like whether it be on a rebuildable, like, you can't put this out there or you can't put this mod out there, I will go to the company and say, if you have me review this, it's going to be shit. I would suggest actually changing it. And that's they've changed quite a few things on my advice before.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I personally think that makes more sense sometimes than just saying, okay, I'm, thanks for this faulty device. I'm going to make a video shitting all over it. Like if I can stop them from doing that and possibly wasting all these distros money, knowing that it's not going to be popular and people are going to hate it, like all the consumers' money, like then I'd rather do that than just crap on it after, all the shops have already stocked it and stuff, if that makes sense.
It does. Did you ever, before we go to a break, did you ever turn a product away, A, because it was a piece of garbage and you knew it, or B, because the company itself was known for clones or anything like that? Did you ever turn something away and not do a review?
Yeah, I've turned quite a few things away for both of those reasons. But like with, when I first started reviewing, I reviewed clones, and then I quickly like realized, okay, this is a bad idea. Back then, it was a little not justifying it, but that was when all rebuildables were either clones or $200. And so it was like, in my mind, I guess at the time I was like, well, it's a cheaper alternative for the vapors and stuff. Nowadays it makes no sense at all to clone. But even then, obviously it was something that was wrong to do. But I mean, I've turned them away for other reasons, and I've also put companies on probation. Like there's been a few where I said, I'm not going to review for you for at least 6 months because you keep posting pictures on Instagram, marketing your product with IP infringement, whether it be Marvel cartoons or characters or stuff like that. And like, like a lot of times when you go to the Chinese companies, they'll quickly change it. And and I don't think that that's just because, oh, we don't want to upset Matt who has a subscriber base. I think it's also like they just don't know. Like a lot of the cultures are completely different. And so sometimes when you just go straight to them and you say, hey, this is not good for vaping, and this is what we're dealing with, this is what's going on in the US, or this is why you shouldn't be doing it this way, then a lot of times they'll respect that and they'll change their ways. Not saying always, but it's definitely happened.
Now that's interesting that they would actually take the time to change. We're going to step away for a break for our sponsors for just a minute and a half or so. When we come back, I've got some other questions for Matt, and then I want to touch on a couple pieces of news. But we're going to stop for our sponsors because without them, Smoke Free Radio could not do what it does. So we'll be right back.
Hey now, this is Dimitri with Smoke Free Radio reminding you to please show some love to our wonderful sponsors. Without them, there would be no Smoke Free Radio, and they are as follows. All the way from Florida, Moon Mountain Vapor, with locations in Florida, and their liquid available for wholesale and retail, moonmountainvapor.com. Some of the best custards and tobaccos on the market from the Brickwills Vaping Company. The lovely Shell with a vapor bar, locations in Texas, Virginia, and West Virginia. And of course online at thevaporbar.com. And who says you can't have award-winning e-liquid without cartoon characters? That's exactly what you're going to get at theplumeroom.com. And finally, of course, the Vaping Advocate magazine that has generously provided the telephone lines for you to communicate with us. Thank you for your support. And finally, for you, the listener, don't forget to check out the coupons and codes page on Smoke Free Radio. Pick up some e-liquid and save some money. From all of us here at Smoke Free Radio, thank you for your continued support.
Hey folks, P. Basardo here, and you're listening to Vaping and the Mic with Mike Peterson.
Coming back from our break from our sponsor show, joining me this evening on Vaping and the Mic is Mr. Matt Culley. You've seen him, if you're watching any kind of reviews, you have seen him on YouTube. You can follow him on Facebook at Suck My Mod. It's just everywhere. And there are some things that have been happening recently that I'm curious about. And this is what, in the taglines for the show coming up when I was doing that, is trying to understand some of your motivation. Because you have recently become much more of a face in advocacy. Now, I know, beyond a shadow of a doubt, as you have been going along since you've been doing reviews and everything else, you have always been advocating for tobacco harm reduction, vapors, things like that. But recently, you've really taken a step forward and added that as almost like a main part of who you are and what you're doing. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely, I think, have been more active and been more involved. I tried to be more involved back in the day, but like this was probably some of my own insecurities, but people didn't really listen to me. And so I feel like sometimes people actually listen to me now. And so it kind of motivates me to say more stuff. But, like back in, 15 and 16, when we had the deeming regs looming, and then when they hit, and what was it, May of 2016, when the final rule was announced, I believe. I made a lot of videos and stuff, but like was a tough time because there was a lot of more infighting then probably than there is now, even in the community. And every time I would make an advocacy video, I'd have somebody from one group telling me I got something wrong, and you must have heard that from the other group, and so on and so forth. And so it was pretty disheartening for a while. And so I would say into 2017, beginning of 2018, I wasn't nearly as active. Now, that's not an excuse. I shouldn't have gotten, disheartened that easily. But lately, I mean, it just seems like there's something new going on every day, as far as bad news, on a federal level, state level. And I've definitely made more of a conscious effort to be more involved, to join a trade group and to try to get proper info out there. I still get criticized now for saying the wrong things or whatever, but it's not as bad as it once was.
It's just, I'm not going to say that I was surprised. You kind of came down on one side of the fence, which, contrary to what a lot of people think, I don't have a beef with a whole lot of anybody. Even Juul, I don't like Juul because of how they conduct themselves, but for tobacco harm reduction, for some people, it could be an awesome device. Do I advocate it? Do I run around going, here, try Juul? Hell no, I don't. And all the groups that are out there, I try to talk to everybody. And I try to understand where they've come from, what is their history, things like that. But you came down on one side of the fence. What made you make that decision? Because that was a major step going forward for you. Because you could have easily alienated a ton of people by picking one national side versus another.
In my mind, it wasn't so much as picking sides. It was just, well, there was a few reasons here. VTA, what's the right word? They took an interest in and I think it was pretty smart. And this is something that I've been thinking for years, to try to kind of widen the umbrella, maybe bring some more of the, people in the, and I told you this earlier, but, in the quote unquote influencer circle, the YouTuber circle, maybe Instagrammers, they took an interest in bringing more people like that in. Mm-hmm. I think there's a few others that might be joining them soon, but we'll see. So that was part of it. And kind of like what Fig says, and I really agree with him on this. When you agree with, 75% or so of what a group does, you're not going to just poo-poo it and say, screw them. I like what they're doing. Now, right. That doesn't even mean that I would ever be opposed to joining SFATA as well. I'm definitely not the type of person that's super tribal or cliquey or anything like that. Mm-hmm. But it just, it worked out. I, for a long time, didn't really even know if it was an option for, some of these groups to have a, because I've kind of you could say I work in the industry, especially because I started designing more, hardware and stuff like that recently. But I always, us YouTubers have always felt kind of like outsiders, I guess, a bit when it came to the rest of the actual industry itself. And so they took an interest in it, and I thought it was a good idea. And I think it's a great idea for I hopefully can get more and more YouTubers to join a trade group, and I don't care which one they join, whatever one they'd like to join.
Yeah, I like when you say that, because again, it's showing impartiality. It's that message that says, I don't care what you do as long as you're doing something positive.
Yeah. I mean, that's the way I look at it. I think that we're at this point now where we, obviously people have been calling for unity and kumbaya in this industry for as long as I've been in it. And that might not always be feasible, but we at least need to all learn how to coexist at this point. There's bigger fish to fry.
Yep. And just putting it out there, we had the OHVTA first annual conference last week. I think it was last week. And a lot of people were there, and some very notable people. And Tony Aboud was there. And it was nice to see this group get together and all be on the same page, talking and trying to accomplish much of the same thing. Which again is what made me sit and ponder why you joined the VTA and things like that. And I think that it's awesome. Did you catch a rash of garbage because you did that?
Not, I mean, compared to the kind of garbage I get on when it comes to other stuff, it wasn't that bad. Like I had a few people write and say, "Hey, what was your why'd you decide to join BTA and stuff?" But I didn't get like any blatant hate or like anybody slamming me or anything like that.
Awesome. Now I'm going to ask you the one thing that has been on my mind. What personally motivates you to continue doing what you're doing? And I mean, outside of knowing that you're helping people by tobacco harm reduction, knowing that you're helping people by giving them good insight into hardware, liquids, other things, what personally motivates you to continue doing what you're doing?
Well, there's a lot of things. I mean, obviously, you just mentioned the obvious one.
Mm-hmm.
I started vaping because I got oral cancer, and so it's this technology is definitely it's a very special thing to me. It wasn't just a hobby or anything, but there's also the hobby side of it and the side that I really enjoy this industry. I enjoy designing things. I enjoy business as well. So like, and I enjoy the whole process of even making videos. It's frustrating. Sometimes you get knocked down just like any other career or job you're going to have. It's very stressful because I'm constantly worried about the future of obviously this industry as a whole and smokers, but also feeding my family. Right. Like it's not, it's a pretty volatile industry. So that's a worry. And I'm sure anyone that works in this industry has those exact same stresses. But, it's, don't get me wrong. There's been days where I've freaking hated it and I've hated the industry and hated some of the people in it and just been like, fuck this and whatever. But it's no different really from any other career you might have. Everyone feels that way at some point. And so it's something that I'm passionate about for multiple different reasons. Obviously the tobacco harm reduction side of it, but also the hobbyist side. And just, I still enjoy doing what I do. And I feel very lucky. I mean, if you had have told me 5 or 6 years ago, hey, you're going to be making a living, making videos on vaping equipment, and you're going to have the chance to design some of your own products and get to know a whole slew of people and whatever, like I would have thought you were crazy. So I try very hard to not take any moment for granted, especially because obviously regardless if regulation was to happen or not, like nothing's forever. So you want to enjoy it and appreciate it while you're there and try to be in the moment.
Yep. With the PMTAs and everything that are looming, do you personally foresee any kind of a brick wall that you're going to hit in your career because of the industry? Or can you see that you're going to be able to continue further into the future?
That's a good question. I mean, there's no doubt about it that if the U.S. industry is just completely decimated, like let's say everything stands the way it is now, PMTAs cost millions of dollars, the FDA is enforcing it, right? And actually taking products off of the black market, which who knows how well they're going to do at that. I mean, it could go either way. I have a pretty big international viewership, like only about 35%, I would say it is now, of my views come from the US.
No shit.
So while like my second biggest country is the UK, where vaping's booming. Some of the Malaysia, Indonesia, Canada. And so I could still potentially be reviewing new products. There's nothing illegal about me getting shipped a new product to review, even if it's not being sold in the States or whatever. But will but there's also the argument that the rest of the world, while it's getting stronger and stronger, and the industries in those countries are getting stronger and stronger, there's still probably going to be less products overall, because there's going to be less market to sell it to. So there's a lot of different scenarios, man. And I stress about stuff like that constantly. And the bottom line is just like, there's no way of knowing. Like, there's constantly twists and turns in this industry. None of us thought that there was going to be a PMTA extension, and then that happened, and then that's getting reeled back now, and then no one knows what's, it's just a constant roller coaster. Today there was good news that the California Senate shelved the flavor ban until next year, but then tomorrow there could be some shit that's going to knock us all right back down. Most likely there probably will be. So it's like, you just kind of have to be that, just go with the waves, I guess. Go with the ups and downs, because it'll drive you crazy if you.
I can imagine that it would. And the reason that I ask, along with the PMTA, because again, this is your career, your working environment, if you will, and things that have come out, just like I believe it was this week, CTFK. I can never remember all their initials. Kentucky Fried Chicken, all of the ants, all of the people that are trying to create havoc have written a letter to various places: Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. I don't believe YouTube was mentioned, but they want to try to get the influencers off of all of the products. And my fear is, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are they going to try to get these platforms to ban vaping products like they do tobacco? Do you think that might be an end result?
Well, I mean, okay, that's another good question. And obviously another fear. I personally don't feel, just looking at the way these platforms operate, they don't usually just ban something outright that's a legal product for adults, right? Mm-hmm. But what they do is they add more and more restrictions, and they kind of bleed it out. So, for example, on YouTube, they banned adding links to shops, right? So anyone that was using affiliate links on YouTube to try to get some affiliate cash when they sent somebody to a certain site to buy a product, they can't do that anymore. I could definitely see these platforms potentially banning, any kind of sponsorships, right? So like the Instagram models that have, hashtag ad when it comes to some products that they're taking a picture with. Right. Now, will the Instagram models just stop putting hashtag ad and still do it, and then just wait and see if the FTC comes after them? Probably. It's a constant cat and mouse game with a lot of these platforms too. But like they're not going to say, hey, you can't talk about vaping on our platform. Like, obviously I can't say that 100%, but there's no precedent for that. Like, for example, a couple of years ago when, obviously we're still having mass shootings now, but like after the Vegas mass shooting, there was a big call to like start cracking down on gun channels on YouTube. And so YouTube didn't ban them, but they did kind of the same thing. They said you can't put links in there. You can't make videos about modifications of guns, like doing, or, bump stocks or things like that. And so I don't foresee like, all of a sudden just one day them saying, hey, no one can talk about vaping on our platform. First off, that's very hard to control. They can't even control the rules they have now, and they're very inconsistent with enforcement. But I could definitely see them cracking down more, like, for example, potentially even saying, hey, if you're a tobacco company or a vaping company, you can't have an Instagram account or something like that, Right. So only sorry, I got a frog in my throat. Only time will tell.
And that's kind of the way that I am. I'm waiting now. The judge came out with a ruling and told the FDA, back your stuff up, and the FDA is going to appeal, and nobody really knows what's going to happen for a little while. I'm not going to fret about it. I'm not going to try to lose too much sleep about it, because A, there's not a damn thing I can do about it. Yeah. B, there are a lot of people that are smarter and more educated in this environment than I am, so I'll wait to see what they have to say. And just like this yes, we sent a letter and 150 people said, well, fine. Let's wait and see what the companies are going to say. That's my take on it.
Yeah, I mean, obviously life is full of unknowns. Like, you never know what's going to happen. You could have a totally steady job, but then get in a car accident tomorrow or whatever. But in this industry, and I'm the type of person that's like, I don't like stuff being up in the air.
Yeah.
Like, I hate that, like not knowing where it could go or what could happen tomorrow. But like, you just have to get to a point to accept it. Some days I'm good at that. Some days I'm not. But like you said, like, we can fight, but there's no way of knowing how all these cards are going to fall.
No. And again, for people that are out there and they're jumping up and down and screaming the sky is falling, try not to do that. Take a calm approach. Sit back, relax, wait a few days, see what's going to fall out. Oh, man,
that's a big pet peeve of mine, because it also it can hurt business in the meantime. Like in 2016, when the deeming regs hit, there was so much fear of unknown, and which is understandable, right? Like, you get it, but like, everyone was like fear mongering constantly online, and there was a lot of businesses that just preemptively shut their doors, thinking that Armageddon was coming tomorrow.
Yep.
And then lo and behold, 2017 was one of the biggest years for the industry, and then obviously it's slowed down again for other reasons like Juul and stuff like that. But it's like, I don't like that, especially when people don't know the whole story. They maybe aren't part of a trade group, and so they just say, this is doomsday, folks, this is the end, and like, all that does is rattle the whole market, and it's not good for the businesses that are still trying to conduct business.
Yep. Matt, while we get ready to wrap up, if there were one or two things that you would want people to know, what would you tell them?
Oh, that's a good. You're asking me a lot of good ones today. You should have told me you were actually going to ask me thought-provoking questions, or I would have, tried to get more sleep last night. One thing I want. Well, I mean, I try not to say anything generic. Obviously, everyone knows that they need to fight and they need to do what they can, especially business owners. Okay, but I think the biggest thing that for people to know right now is like, you just can't give up hope, because there's been so many twists and turns just for as long as I've been in this industry, that there's no knowing how everything's gonna play out. Like, right now, things don't seem very good. There was a bad court ruling. Hopefully it'll get appealed. PMTAs, regardless, are still going to happen in a couple years. Those could cost millions of dollars. We could be totally fucked, or there could be a crazy twist that no one's even thinking of right now. Because in the past, there's been twists that people weren't even talking about that have happened. So like, a lot of times people are like, well, we expect this to happen, this is what we want. But then there's a totally different twist that changes the whole ball game. And especially for the people that are fighting the fight every day, like in chat where Fig was in there, and Kevin Crowley and Paul and who else was in there earlier? Why am I having a brain fart?
Austin Hopper was in there. I've been watching Jerry Reed's in there.
Oh, you have a whole new stream. And why am I having a brain fart? The guy that asked me the question. Why do I always
Bill Tarley?
Yeah, Bill. You have these guys that fight way harder than I even do every day. And so, I mean, it's got to be pretty disheartening sometimes, especially when shit's just coming at you constantly. But I mean, there's always twists and turns. So like, I'm kind of an eternal optimist. Like, I try to be a realist, but I'm also an optimist. And I think that until government shows up and forces us to absolutely close our doors and enforce everything, we just need to keep fighting and keep doing what we do.
That's important, because I try to tell people much the same thing, different philosophy, different kind of wording. But ladies and gentlemen, this is coming from a guy that has 271,000 followers on him on YouTube. So he's not just blowing any kind of vapor product at you. He's telling you, keep fighting. Keep making the phone calls. Keep doing the emails. Keep staying active. Keep going forward. Don't stop. Because when we stop, we become stagnant. Well, Matt, I tell you what, I seriously appreciate you taking time to join me this evening. Honest to God, I
This
really
was
do.
fun, man. You asked some good questions that people don't usually ask me, so it was enjoyable.
This is why I love doing what I do. You know, I think about things. I love to ask questions that I'm interested in. Hopefully, other people do as well. You know, this is why I love doing it. I appreciate you being here.
I'm impressed. Because, you know, a lot of times when people interview me for the first time, it's a lot of like vanilla generic stuff. Why did you start vaping? What's your favorite vape product? How'd you, you know, so on and so forth. But you asked some good ones that actually made me think. So it was enjoyable. Time flew by.
It did. An hour goes by so quick. Well, ladies and gentlemen, in the chat room that are going to listen on the podcast later on, you have been listening to Mr. Matt Culley. Matt has his YouTube channel at Suck My Mod. He also has his Facebook page at Suck My Mod. Matt, do you have a website or anything else that you want to tell people about?
No website, just Suck My Mod on Instagram, Twitter. I definitely talk more not as much product stuff on Twitter. It's definitely more advocacy and arguing with antis on Twitter. Which is fun, but then, you know, like Instagram's more so pictures of gear and obviously YouTube's reviews and whatnot.
Fantastic. Well, ladies and gentlemen, again, tonight's guest, Mr. Matt Culley. Matt, I appreciate it. And for everybody else, I'm going to catch up with you again next week. Next week, believe it or not, we have Matt Stafford coming in from Regulator Watch, and that's going to be kind of a heavy one-on-one. But this evening is Mr. Matt Culley.
Brent Stafford.
Brent, thank you. My God.
You put our names together.
He would shoot me. I apologize, Brent.
I'm telling him, man.
All right, everybody. I hope you have a great night. I hope you have a great weekend. And again, we will catch you next week, moving to a new time slot, 9 p.m. Eastern, Vaping in the Mic. I hope everybody has a great night.